At the end of every Splatoon game comes the Finalfest, the splatfest to give a final send-off to the game and influence the outcome of the next Splatoon, making the choice of theme and how the results are used for the next game very important for the future of the series. So what are the best Finalfest themes and outcomes for the winners of said themes to ensure the best Finalfest event and future Splatoon game? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing today, of course. I'm going to be going over each theme and giving it a rating as a normal Splatfest theme and Finalfest theme, which you'll understand better during the video, as I believe some themes might be interesting as normal Splatfests, but won't really have any implications for the future of Splatoon, making them bad as Finalfests. So let's get started with the first and most popular one, which is the Ultimate Idol Group Showdown. Which group is the best, Squid Sisters, Off the Hook, or Deep Cut? From what I've seen online, this seems to be the most talked about as a Finalfest contender, and there's a lot of good things I have to say about it. I think that this theme would be extremely hype and would bring a lot of excitement to the community to figure out which group truly reigns supreme in many factors, whether it's their music, personalities and dynamic, style, or the sentimental value they bring to each and every one of our experiences with Splatoon. And personally, if you ask me, Off the Hook would 1000% get my vote. I would literally never try hard more for any other team. But the problem for me comes with what's done with these results afterwards for the next Splatoon game. It would be cool to see our favorite group win, but for what exactly? The bad ending for me is that they come back as the newscasters for the next Splatoon game, as personally, I'm way more for creating new characters to learn about and giving them unique aspects compared to the previous ones, which I think they've done a great job with so far, with each idol being so different from one another. And I think just bringing back the pre-existing groups would negatively impact the next Splatoon game. However, the other possibility is like what we got with Splatoon 1's Kelly vs Marie Finalfest, where the winners/losers somehow have some sort of influence on the story of the next Splatoon. I do think this was poorly executed in the transition between Splatoon 1 and 2, where it was just Callie getting kidnapped and us having to save her, which really didn't add anything very interesting to the story. There could be a few ways for it to work this time around though. One example I thought of could be that the winner gets evil with power and creates a world under their ruling, and the other groups have to fight against their monarchy. Which I honestly do think fits Deep Cut's character the most with what we saw from them in the story mode. There's many other possibilities with the story mode influence, but it can be very hit or miss in my opinion. Another way the Splatfest could be enhanced would be if each group got the chance to perform their songs throughout the Splatfest. We already have Deep Cut and the Squid Sisters, but if Off the Hook could also perform, that would make the Splatfest just that much better. Maybe once Side Order comes out and Kapala Square could return, who knows? And all I'd say as a normal Splatfest, like the Deep Cut Splatfest, I would honestly give this theme a 10 out of 10, but for Finalfest, I'd put it down to about an 8 out of 10 due to the outcomes for the next game being hit or miss. Alright, next up, despite not being my favorite, I actually think this next theme is most likely going to be the one chosen for Finalfest, which is Pick Your Poison, Bird, Snake vs Boar. If you're not too familiar with Deep Cut, you might not understand this right off the bat, so let me explain. During Splatfest, each Deep Cut idol performs their own solo song, which are known as the Anarchy Poisons, with each one having their own mix based off their representative animal, with Shivers being Bird Mix, Fries being Snake Mix, and Big Man's being Boar Mix. These songs are based off the 3 poisons, otherwise known as the 3 unwholesome roots in Buddhist culture, where each one of the 3 animals is meant to represent a poison or flaw in our being. The bird, aka Shiver, represents greed and lust. The snake, aka Fry, represents hate and anger. And the boar, aka Big Man, represents delusion and ignorance. In Buddhism, living these poisons is supposed to be what keeps our lives in suffering. And each of the idol's songs are supposed to represent said flaws, even though we don't understand the lyrics. And so for this theme, we'll basically have to pick our poison: greed, anger, or ignorance. Likely being represented by the animal as the artwork, or some other way for it to make sense to the player. Whichever team wins, their animal/poison starts to take over the world of the next Splatoon, where for example, if the bird won, it would begin to spread its influence in both the enemy Octarian society and Inkling and Octoling society. The mission of the story mode or DLC would then become to defeat the animal to save the world from its poison and restore peace and balance in the Splatoon world. And similarly to how we're getting Side Order, but what happened if Team Order won, they could do the same thing with the other teams as DLC in Splatoon 4. The reason I think this theme is so likely to be the Finalfest is the fact that we're already seeing it within the Splatfest with the Anarchy Poison songs. While it could just be to make Deep Cut seem more interesting, I really do think this is foreshadowing for the Finalfest theme. The only problem I'd have with it, to be honest, is the fact that we're really just forced to pick between 3 negative things, which makes it kind of predictable for the outcome for the future of Splatoon. I have to give it a 7 out of 10 for a normal theme, and an 8.5 out of 10 for a Finalfest theme. Right before I get to my favorite Finalfest theme, I'm going to throw some honorable mentions on screen, which were basically themes I found or came up with, but that I didn't find any good future outcomes for in the next Splatoon. I figured I'd show them to you guys just in case you guys have any good ideas for what they could influence in the next game. If you do, then be sure to leave them in the comments below. But now for the moment you've all been waiting for, which is what I think would be the best possible Finalfest theme, which is where would you rather live? Futuristic, Desertic, or Tropical City? As you can probably deduce, the outcome of this theme would be towards the next city we live in Splatoon 4. And I also made sure each team reflects each idol specifically as well, with Shiver's more traditional Japanese look and style being paired with Futuristic for Japan's modern cities being known for their futuristic aesthetic, Fry's more Indian look and style being paired with Desertic for Western India's desertic landscape and cities, and finally Big Man's possible Latin inspiration with the fact that his Anarchy Poison songs are derivative of Latin music, and apparently the fact that the European Portuguese translation of Big Man's Nintendo Direct reveal was the only localization where Big Man actually spoke without his well-known A and just speaks normally. And this connects to the fact that many Latin American countries, like Brazil, are full of tropical landscapes, and also the fact that manta rays and most sea creatures thrive in tropical areas. And as for the story mode implications, I have a few interesting possibilities. The simple route would be the construction of a new city somewhere, based on the winning team of course. This could easily tie into the story as well, making us discover whole new territories of the entire Splatoon world. Another example I came up with is creating new lore based on the origins of each idol within the Splatlands, where the next game would take place in the winner's home city, where we would discover more on their culture, and of course the idol group that is most popular in that city. And also giving us more lore on the rest of the Splatlands which is yet to be discovered. And all this could be integrated within the game's story mode in DLC, where we would get the history behind the winner's home city in the base story, and similarly to Side Order, the history behind the cities of the losing idols as well. Or the entirely new territory outside the Splatlands if it's a new construction. And what kind of enemy forces they have to deal with, like how Inkopolis dealt with the missing Great Zapfish and the Octarian Nemesis. Tying everything in together perfectly in my opinion. We just have to hope that the map of the Splatlands we have now doesn't actually give us the full picture of what resides within it, and that it just shows what we've discovered so far in the Splatoon storyline, because if not, it would ruin the entire deep cut origins concept I came up with. I would say this theme doesn't have as much of a hype factor like an idol group Splatfest, but I really think this theme could open many doors in the lore and culture of the Splatlands and the entire Splatoon world. I give it a 7 out of 10 for a normal Splatfest theme, and a 9.5 out of 10 for a Finalfest theme. Let me know what you think of these themes I gave in this video, and if you have any other alternative outcomes for them that I didn't mention, or any themes I didn't think of at all for this video. I'd love to hear them. That's all I have for today. I love you all.